Yeah, go ahead.
Cool, dude.
All right, guys. Joe McDonough here with MyMMAnews.com. I'm joined by 3-0 Jaylon Bates. Jaylon, how are you doing, my friend?
Good, living the dream. Happy to be alive. How are you?
Absolutely, man. I'm good. I'm sure you're very happy after that big win. Tell me about it. 3-0 now. Been a very pleasant time in Bellator, I'm guessing.
Yes. Been racking up the dubs lately, so I'm excited to do that and continue doing it for a great company as Bellator. And it's I'm enjoying the process. I'm enjoying the movement.
And we've watched you through your amateur career. I mean, everyone knew your name. Everyone was waiting for you to go pro. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But, to be doing this on a big stage like Bellator, and to be kind of jumping right into this, the heat of things in a huge promotion. I mean, talk to me about that. I mean, what's it like being like an 0-0 fighter walking in? Obviously now you're 3-0, but to kind of be in this spot, because most 3-0 fighters are on the regional scene.
It was I thought it was gonna be maybe a shock. I thought it was gonna be like, oh my gosh, this is super overwhelming, this is one of the highest promotions in the world for combat sports, and everyone wants to get here. So I thought it was gonna be overwhelming. I thought it was gonna be a little too much, but I handled it, and we're gonna have probably our fourth fight here in August, and it was an easy and smooth transition, especially with the management team that I have in Dewan Blake and affiliation management. Understanding that there's levels to this game, and in order to be on a high level, you have to put yourself on a high level. You have to have that mindset to be on a high level. And I feel like as an amateur, that's really how I came into the amateur game. I came in like, none of these guys really want to fight like that. Like they're amateurs, so they're feeling it out. But I came in and I was guns a-blazing, and I had five title fights in my amateur career. And then and then I jumped right over, and these last two opponents, or not this one, but my last opponent, he was a flyweight champion coming up. So I think it's good to continue to go out there and fight champions, because they had that mentality of never give up, and it's good.
And to you had such a long amateur career. I believe 9-0. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So 9 amateur fights. I mean, like you said, 5 title fights. I mean, just such an insane amateur career. A lot of us, again, we're wondering when we were going to see you pro. We wanted to see you pro. Does it feel for you like you've been pro? I mean, what does it feel like now, being in 3 professional fights versus those, title fights in the amateur ranks? I mean, does it feel like you've been a pro for, 5-6 fights now?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's a lot more maturing I need to do in this game, and growing up. And I know that I'm more than willing to do it, put in work to grow and become way better than I am now. So I think it was just like with having the 3 title fights, I'm like, the last 3 fights, I'm kind of like, oh man, this is a different stage. But the only thing that's different between amateur and pros is we're getting paid. Yeah. And the promotion actually is going to take care of its fighters way more than an amateur promotion would. And that's another thing I guess I was waiting. I'm so super relieved to be professional, because as an amateur athlete, you're doing it, to be known, and you're doing it more to prove something to yourself. But as a professional, you're here to show, instead of showing something to yourself, you're here to show it to the world. And I think that's what I love about being professional.
And with being an amateur, we see it so often these days where fighters go 1-0, 2-0, 3-0 on an amateur scene, and suddenly they're professional fighters. I mean, what was it for you that you wanted to kind of continue on the amateur ranks and kind of grow there before jumping into that? Because one thing when I've talked to fighters is the amateur career is just as important. Your record may not transpire over, but that's where you're learning a lot of this stuff.
Yes, 100%. That's right where it is I get a long amateur career. If I didn't have those 5 title fights in my last amateur career, I probably would have still been fighting amateur last year, and probably would never been able to get to the Bellator promotion yet. But those amateur fights are extremely important. I see that some of these guys, they're only 3-0 and as an amateur, and then they get into professional, and they might go 5-1 as a professional, or 5-0 as a professional, but altogether they've only had 8 fights, 5 of those being professional fights. I think it puts me at a different level because I was able to fight a 45 champion coming down to 35, and that seeing how that affected his body, and when 45ers drop to 35, it's not as easy as people think because you still have to go out there and perform.
Mhm.
And I think that's the performing at a the highest level is extremely important. So get all your amateur fights. For any advice for any amateur fighters out there, get all your amateur fights in. Don't let anybody rush you. I know even when I was training in Vegas, it's the fight capital of the world. People were ready for me to go pro. They were like, yeah, we can get you on this promotion. Yeah, we can get you on this promotion. And even Iridium, I know everybody in MMA world is familiar with the Iridium Sports Agency. They had even vetted me, 2 years ago, and I didn't sign. I held out, and I think fighters got to know their worth. That's the thing. They got to know what value they bring to a promotion, and they have to truly believe that, and they actually have to truly show that. The with this last fight, I was injured a week before my fight. Came into fight week, super congested, super like not being able to breathe properly. Um, there's a lot of I came into this fight with, and I still showed up, still made the weight, still got the victory, and I still got the finish like I said I would. So I think fighters also have to, if they say they're going to do something with these promotions, the promotion's going to hold you to that. And so don't just talk a big game, but walk the talk.
Yeah, and speaking of, someone has a big fight coming up in July, and AJ McKee, who started his career young with Bellator, has worked his way up to a title fight here with Patricio, and after watching your fight, I had went to Twitter and I had said that Jaylon Bates could be a future AJ McKee, in the sense of Bellator and rising the ranks. I mean, talk to me about that. I mean, just the chance to possibly go from 0-0, sign with Bellator and rise in the ranks. I know it's early, but something that the fans are seeing.
Yes, absolutely. And absolutely. I'm actually really going to blow your mind right now to say that next week I'll be staying out there for a week at the McKees with the McKees, and I'll be training with them. So, we'll be seeing, you never know. We might end up there. Might end up with the McKees.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that. The idea of that. And love to see, what you both have learned from each other in that next fight. I know you teased August. I'm sure you can't say much. But I mean, what's next for you in the sense of, now you're 3-0, is the opponent's gonna, what are we looking at? What is your ideal opponent next?
My ideal opponent, I'm looking, my next opponent's going to be much more of a challenge. Which I'm all for. I'm all for challenges and things that make me better because, I truly believe that God gives the strongest test to his strongest soldiers, and I do believe I'm an extremely, extremely strong soldier for not only God but for the universe and people in general. So I'm excited to test myself with this next fight. I'm looking for someone who's going to bring, I'm still growing, so I'm not. There's nothing I don't want too much, but eventually, I want to. After I'm maybe 5-0, 6-0, I'm looking for these top 10 guys. I believe I'm better than majority, all of these top 10 guys.
Yeah.
So, I just get back in and put in the work after this fight.
And it's clear that you're, and this is the last one here, Jaylon, it's clear that you're, very, very self-aware in the sense of, like you said, you kind of gambled on yourself in the sense of, knowing your worth, and you're 4-0, 5-0, and you've got Iridium calling, you've got professional leagues calling, you've got all this stuff, but you're saying, no, I'm going to stay amateur. And here you are talking 3-0, but I don't want a huge challenge yet. I want a better challenge, but not a huge one. I mean, talk to me about having that mentality, because, I mean, I'm sure it's hard as a 24-year-old to say, I'm going to go fight the champion tomorrow. I can beat this guy,
Yeah, I can. It is hard because especially since Pettis has been, he was in the UFC, then obviously, I mean, his talents didn't cut it for the UFC, whatever, but he was in the UFC and he was with top level guys, and that's the important part. He was with top level guys, and now I think he's like 28 or something, so he's a young champion, and now he's over at Bellator and he's a champion. So holding out, yeah, it's extremely important to hold out and know the mentality of I want to get better each fight, and I don't want to, you want to give a little risk. Like I know I've been the favorite for betting. I've been like I think one of the biggest parlays for betting since these cards have come out, and which is great. But I love being the underdog.
Yeah.
I love when everyone's like, "Oh man, watch out, this guy might," and I'm like, "Yep, yeah, let's do it. I can't wait." And being the underdog is helped me elevate my game because as an amateur when I came in I signed with Tough Enough, and Tough Enough has put countless people in the UFC as we know, so I got my first fight with Tough Enough, and it was a guy who was I think 1-1 or 2-1 or yeah, like 1-1, and it was a test. He was like 37 though, or he was like 30. He was older. He was like in his 30s. Yeah. And then after that, I fought a guy my second fight. I fought a guy who's 2-2, and then my third fight, I fought a guy who, basically, long story short, amateur. Every fight I
Elevated.
increased my opponent and who I was fighting, and it challenged me each fight a little more, and a lot of these fights I didn't have camps for. So it was just a testament to myself, and I wanted, and to others that I was just chasing it because my mentality and I knew where I wanted to go in MMA. Had my family training me. I had my brothers wrestling with me, just running on my own, and it's a blessing to have a gym and teammates to support you. But doesn't mean for any fighters who don't have that yet, doesn't mean you still can't make it in this game right now as an amateur, at least, just to start your career, because you put it out there, you build it, you build yourself, people will come and people will want to help you. And I've been blessed to truly realize and find that out in my life, that people respect the hell out of me in this fight game. So it's love.
As they should. Jaylon, that's all I got for you, man. Look forward to hopefully watching you go 4-0 in August. Thank you, Jaylon.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. Talk soon.